8 years ago, Vladimir Putin signed a decree on the annexation of Crimea. Today in Moscow, he has annexed more Ukrainian territories. On the basis of his decree, the Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts are to officially become part of the Russian Federation. The people have made their choice. It is a clear choice. I believe that there will be federal and constitutional support for the 4 new regions to become part of the Russian Federation. Earlier today, in response to Vladimir Putin's lies, President Volodymyr Zelensky signed Ukraine's application to join NATO in an accelerated procedure. De facto, we have proved compatibility with the NATO standards, and that standards are real for Ukraine. They are real on the battlefield and in all aspects of our cooperation. Today, Ukraine is submitting an application de jure under a procedure consistent with our significance for the protection of our entire community, under an accelerated procedure. It is our country that always proposed to Russia to agree on coexistence on equal, honest, dignified, and fair conditions. Clearly, with this Russian president, it is impossible. He does not know what dignity and honesty are. Therefore, we are ready for a dialogue with Russia, but with another president of Russia. The leaders of world powers agree that the plebiscites conducted by the Russian authorities in Ukraine are illegal. Ukraine has lost more than 15% of its territory under referendums.
I want to underscore that the so-called referenda in the occupied regions were conducted during active armed conflict in areas under Russian occupation and outside Ukraine's legal and constitutional framework. They cannot be called the genuine expression of the popular will.
We cannot be indifferent to the change in the status quo of a sovereign state. We will continue to work with G7 members and the international community and take decisive steps against Russia. The European Union is likely to announce the 8th package of sanctions against Russia on Monday. The United States is working on the restrictions in parallel.
This so-called referendum was a sham, an absolute sham. The results were manufactured in Moscow. And the true will of the Ukrainian people is evident every day as they sacrifice their lives to save their people and maintain the independence of their country and in defense of freedom as well.
Russian President Vladimir Putin pledged last Wednesday to defend Russian territory by all necessary means, including the use of nuclear weapons. The unprecedented statement made experts concerned about the Ukrainian counteroffensive. It is necessary to keep a tremendous distance from any such scenarios for the reason that there is still a certain barrier of fear when it comes to the use of nuclear weapons. But certainly the incorporation from the Russian perspective of occupied lands in an illegal manner will be elementary to some extent, used in cooperation with the element of nuclear weapons. There are over 62,000 shelters in Poland, which in the event of a nuclear attack can accommodate a total of about 1.3 million people. However, most of them do not meet the current standards of reacting to a nuclear attack. The Ministry of Interior and Administration is successfully distributing potassium iodide in case of emergency. The shielding agent will soon go to schools and fire brigades. Our activities are of a routine, standard nature, as stipulated by law in the event of a possible radiation emergency. Kiev continues its counteroffensive aimed at liberating the occupied territories. Today, Ukrainian forces have encircled Liman and are close to success. Capturing the city will mean that the Ukrainian army has moved less than 50 kilometers from Severodonetsk. In response, the Russians shot at a convoy of Ukrainian civilians that was trying to reach the occupied part of Zaporizhia region. Hitting a municipal bus fleet with an Iskander, demolishing electric substations, residential buildings, transport stops, killing civilians. Does anyone still need more evidence of the Russian invaders' moral degradation? Soon 20,000 Russian soldiers will be stationed in Belarus. However, according to the authorities in Kiev, Russian forces will not launch an attack from the north in the near future. The Kremlin continues to violate the principles of partial mobilization it has announced, so support for hostilities in Ukraine has dropped to 44%.